Well, welcome back to Finance Uncut. On today's episode, we're going to explore, is JP Morgan developing a silverback digital currency? I'm not sure if you've seen the silver squeeze in Wall Street Silver. They raised over $100,000, which they're using to advertise and create awareness about our current monetary system and the fraud that it is, the fiat currency system where banks and central banks can just create currency out of nothing, create inflation, steal our wealth, steal our purchasing power. And they're educating people that silver is money, and silver throughout history has been money more than gold has. Throughout history, gold was actually used as a store of value or a store of wealth, and silver has been money. But those from Wall Street Silver, they've been doing these billboards around the US, in Canada, and they do say that they're going to do more of them around the world. Folks, people are waking up. You saw in my previous video that the mints around the world are out of stock. They're out of silver. They cannot meet the demand. The unallocated is a fraud. And it is what it is. People are waking up. Silver is money. And now in this video, we're going to look at digital currencies. Now, we know that we've got private digital currencies like the Bitcoins and Ethereums and others. We do know that central banks are working on digital currencies or trialing digital currencies. Some have already come out and got their digital currencies working. And if you actually look into it, it's actually pretty scary. And I would probably rather take paper fiat over central bank digital currencies any day. But there's also starting to be some rumors going around that JP Morgan, they are the largest holders of silver in the world. They have created their own digital currency, currently backed by the US dollar, which is rubbish. But there is talk that they could be replacing that, being backed by the dollar and it being backed by silver. Now, there is a link between JP Morgan and the US Federal Reserve. JP Morgan is a shareholder of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is a private organization. It is not owned by the government or by the American people. It is owned by the banks. It's a private organization. So there are some talk, maybe a little bit conspiracy stuff out there, but we're going to go down some of those little rabbit holes in this video. So what is a central bank digital currency? So coming onto Investopedia, a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, use a blockchain-based token to represent the digital form of a fiat, right there, fiat currency of a particular nation. A CBDC is centralized, so it's not decentralized. It is issued and regulated by the monetary authority of the country. So a couple of things that I just want to bring up on here, and I'll put a link in the description below. You can have a look at this in your own time. So it talks about, over the years, the traditional banking regulatory authorities across the globe have struggled to control the growing cloud of popular cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, which work on a blockchain network. I'm trying to read ahead. So by coming up with their own central bank digital currency, it actually gives them tremendous amount of control. Now, just come down here. Where are we? Yeah, so Unable to control the growth and influence of such cryptocurrencies, many leading central banks across the globe are working on or contemplating launching their own versions of cryptocurrencies, also called digital fiat currencies, of course, or digital base money. Well, it's not money, it's currency, it's fiat, it's debt, it's a bond, it's a note, it's worthless, it's rubbish. Well, it's not worthless. You can exchange it for something of value, I guess, at this point, but yeah, so here, this is what I want to show. Examples of CBDCs. To date, no country has officially launched a central bank digital currency. Well, this is out of date because we know China have. The Bank of England, the pioneer, who was the pioneer to initiate the CBDC proposal. Following that, central banks of other nations like China's People Bank of China, the PBOC, the Bank of Canada, the Central Bank of Uruguay, Thailand, Venezuela, Sweden, and Singapore, amongst others, are looking into the possibility of introducing a central bank issued digital currency. And now Australia is also doing the same. Russia has been moving forward with its creation of the crypto ruble, simply because it's easier to discreetly send money without worrying about sanctions placed on the country by the international community. Venezuela has been purported to be working on a central bank digital currency called the Petro since 2017, which would be backed by physical stocks of crude oil. So at least they're trying to back a currency of some sort by actual real assets. The Venezuelan government also announced Petro Gold in 2018, allegedly pegged to the value of oil, gold, and other precious metals. Because when this cryptocurrency, fiat currency system that we're in dies, and it will, all fiat currencies die and come to an end, you're going to have some sort of currency that is backed by something to give people confidence in that nation's currency once again. And in breaking news, Jamaica is to pilot a central bank digital currency over the course of this year, and they'll begin rolling it out in 2022. So we've got another country, nation, Jamaica, small nation, granted, but they are now coming out with a central bank digital currency. Now, Jerome Powell has just come out and said that he thinks cryptocurrencies, these are the private ones, are not really useful stores of value, and says that the Fed will move slowly in creating its own. Now, I know that the Fed is working on this. Rowan Gray, I think the guy's name is, he's actually an Aussie guy. He's also advising the Fed on a Fed coin. The congresswomen that Donald Trump nicknamed the squad, they are calling for the Fed coin. Just mint the Fed coin, the $1 trillion Fed coin, and it's coming. We can see right here, the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston announces collaboration with MIT to research the digital currency. The ECB intensifies its work on a digital euro. ECB pushes digital euro, wants to globally regulate Bitcoin's funny business. Yeah, right, like we trust you. But here's the thing, folks. These are the most powerful people in the world. Governments and central banks are pushing it, are going down this route. Guaranteed. This is where we're headed. And from the Bank of England's own website, central banks and the Bank of International Settlements published first central bank digital currency report laying out key requirements. A group of 7 central banks, together with the Bank of International Settlements, today published a report identifying the foundational principles necessary for any publicly available CBDCs to help central banks meet their public policy objectives. And that is actually quite scary when you have a look at it. And if you have a look at the Bank of England, they released a central bank digital currency research roadmap supporting a resilient payments landscape, avoiding the risks of new forms of private money creation, aka Bitcoin. So, folks, they do look at this as a threat, Bitcoin as a threat, digital currencies in the current form as a threat to their monopoly. Supporting competition, efficiency, and innovation in payments, meeting future payment needs in a digital economy, improving the availability and usability of central bank money, addressing the consequences of a decline in cash as a building block for better cross-border payments. I mean, that's what they're selling. There's a few things in there that are actually quite scary. And in this In Gold We Trust thread on Twitter, really brilliant. Talks about Russell Napier and the financial repression that is coming now. Russell has been a deflationist for 20 years and he's turned on a dime. That's Russell there. Turned on a dime. He now says we're going to have inflation. We've got the ECB talking about basically this repression, capping bond yields, which if you'll remember in my last video, I talked about as CPI rises, nominal yields will also like to rise, but central banks will come in and start trying to cap that or doing yield curve control, which will create even larger negative real interest rates, which is a rocket for gold and silver. But I wanted to show you in this, we'll just pause that for a sec because I'll show you it in a sec. This is the general manager for the Bank of International Settlements, and have a listen to what he says about central bank digital currencies. It is very, very scary.
Our analysis on CBDC, in particular for the use of general use, we tend to establish the equivalence with cash, and there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that. Those two issues are extremely important, and that makes a huge difference with respect to what cash is.
So there you go. You heard it from the horse's mouth himself. And as his tweet says, as we move into a period of inflation, Russell predicts that financial repression and central planning by governments will increase. He says we're moving to a command economy, a more socialist, communist, central planning type economy. Very Orwellian this is. Measures will include the introduction of central bank digital currencies, which will grant authorities absolute control, just as he said. They will have the technology to absolutely control us. It's very Orwellian. Very Orwellian. I'll put a link in the description below to George Gammon's channel. If you haven't seen George Gammon's YouTube channel, do yourself a favor, check it out. But he's got some wonderful videos on central bank digital currencies. In fact, I've done a video, I think, on the World Economic Forum's Great Reset. And in there, part of their plan is to use central bank digital currencies, to control people. To control the economy, to take away our freedoms and our liberties. And on JP Morgan's own website, they announced JP Morgan creates digital coin for payments. And on CNBC, JP Morgan creates new unit for blockchain projects, says the technology is close to making money. And JP Morgan's JPM coin is now live, executives say.
So is the banks maybe, trying to stack some physical metal? Is that maybe foreshadowing that we could be moving to a physical backed digital currency? I know you've spoken about Zcash before. Is there something like that that you kind of see, in your opinion, that is going to be backed by physical metal like this?
Well, first, in terms of the big banks accumulating, yeah. So the work on Basel III started years ago, and central banks on the whole have been buyers of gold for numerous years now. Again, something that Luke Grumman talks about. Especially China and Russia have been accumulating gold. And China, we have no idea how much they have because they're one of the world's largest gold producers, but gold doesn't leave China. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of speculation they have quite a bit. And I saw recently a news article about Putin announcing that they've ended the dependency on the dollar, essentially. So yeah, there's a lot of move, definitely by countries. Now the question is will any country make a gold-backed currency? I don't think so, because then they couldn't deficit spend. China seems to be going down the route of essentially having gold backing for their currency, but at an indirect free floating rate. And again, this is from Luke Grumman, but so they will, buy oil from Russia in yuan or euros. Russia can use yuan to buy goods from China, and whatever's left over, they can go to the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which is heavily settled for physical. Most of their contracts wind up being settled for physical, unlike COMEX. Mm-hmm. And so in essence, what they have is they're backing yuan with gold, but at a free floating rate. So in terms of a crypto backed, so Zcash, it's not something I know much about, but somebody on Twitter pointed it out, which would be a cryptocurrency by JP Morgan, backed by silver is my understanding. Again, it ties back to I don't want a big bank controlling our money supply, and I certainly don't want holding crypto with somebody like that, or with a big bank. So I've said for years that, I think that gold and silver-backed crypto will be the way out of this, since the governments either will not do the right thing or they'll do the right thing and mess it up again. I really want people to choose to use gold and silver again. And in the 21st century, something like crypto backing is the way to do that, rather than the paper. Paper money got started by you deposit your gold in the bank for safety, and they issue an IOU, and that became the paper currency. Mm-hmm. Well, crypto is the modern day equivalent of that. And so I think it's a natural evolution, and it's something people can do without waiting on the government. And the system that I've been using since December and really excited about is the Kinesis monetary system. And it's more than just gold-backed crypto. They have a whole yield engine. So the fees go into a fee pool, and the fees are 0.45%. Those go into a fee pool, and that basically gets paid back to the holders or the people that add gold and silver to the system, physical gold and silver to the system, or people that do referrals, or people that were early investors. And then some of the fee pool goes to pay insurance, vaulting cost, and so forth. So it's I think of it as a really big member-owned credit union where it's hard currency backed. And I love I had a whole bunch of KAG, which is silver, in my account. And I could, I'd go to a convenience store, sell a little silver, put it onto my debit card, and then go in there using Apple Pay and pay for, a few groceries. So your exposure to fiat can be completely minimized with a system like that.
Interesting. So how does Gresham's law apply to your thinking around Kinesis?
Well, so that's something they talk about, is trying to reverse Gresham's law. So for those that don't know, Gresham's law is that bad money drives out good. So, if paper currencies start to fail, the tendency is you hoard the gold and silver and you spend your dollars. And now the government's printing dollars kind of exponentially. You toss Gresham's law in there, where you start to get that first hint of inflation, and people go, oh my goodness. and they start spending their dollars to get rid of them, that's where inflation can kind of really spike heavily, and become parabolic. And so that's Gresham's law. So Kinesis, the claim is they're trying to reverse Gresham's law. And at first I said, that's kind of a gimmicky thing to say, and I don't quite get it. And I started using it. And then recently, a Silver Squeeze got kicked off. They have an offer where whenever you mint, you wind up getting a perpetual yield from the coin, from the gold and silver you add to the vaults. And right now, those yields are triple for a short amount of time. Plus, you get one of these kind of investment shares, KVTs. And next thing you know, I'm like minting like crazy. And so I've, with the help of others, probably 6,000 ounces of silver minted, put into the vaults at Kinesis, and then I get a yield as people use those. And that's Gresham's law, right? As you say, I have an incentive to, let's say I was physical holding gold and silver. I have incentive to take that gold and silver, put it on deposit, and earn a 5% yield off of its use. Or I have an incentive to pay a little bit of money to mint, some tokens by putting a physical into the vault, and then I get a yield off of the transaction fees for that. So that's where it's trying to reverse Gresham's law, is incentivizing you to use the system. Because I'd always been excited about gold-backed crypto, but every time I went to look at it, I was like, well, okay, so I'm going to get a gold token. It's going to track the price of gold. Mm-hmm. Well, I have gold sitting on my shelf, so why would I add that risk to it? Mm-hmm. Well, in this case, you are adding a little bit of counterparty risk, depending on how much you trust the system, but you're obtaining liquidity, vault storage at no cost because of the fee structure, and potentially yields from saving and or minting. So
what do you guys think? Do you think we could see a JP Morgan silver-backed digital currency? Or do you think central banks and governments will finally do the right thing and we'll have a gold or silver-backed digital currency? Have you heard of any other digital currencies backed by silver or gold? I know the Perth Mint have the Gold Pass, which is like a digital online payment system that is backed by gold. There's another firm that's similar to that here in Australia. I was at a gold conference last year where they presented, I don't know. All I know is keep on stacking. Central banks are buying gold. If big banks like JP Morgan are buying silver, I think it's wise that we do too. So keep on stacking. We know that the price of gold and silver has been manipulated down, especially silver, and that can't last forever. And so, yeah, I think it's good. But what do you guys think? Love to see your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Hit that like button. And until then, take care, guys, and I'll see you again on another episode of Finance Uncut.